Good to see some familiar faces here. Been down this road a time or two in the last few weeks. So we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started. And maybe we'll do a little housekeeping while we're waiting. So Jessica sent out this really great sheet today. And just a few reminders that if you were at our 4/6 event, we have that posted on YouTube. And that was in your email. And then all of the session materials are available to you in the Dropbox on that link. And at this time, I think we have 3 different files. We have the slideshow, we have OMWBE, and we have some resources and links. And then Jessica, do we have Graham's files in there also?
Yes, I believe I just uploaded it. So if not, it will be here shortly.
Oh, okay. And then also in there was a whole bunch of websites that will be real resources for you. And what I just did is I put all these into a PDF file so that you can print off the PDF file or have it so you have the digital access. Just click on the PDF. And the schedule today, PTAC is going to do the first hour, and then OMWB, our friend Caleb, who came and spoke to us last week, is going to sit in on this session. We'll have a little break, and then we're going to move into business growth and planning with Graham Ralston. And then when we get all said and done with the Q&A, we're all going to be able to experience a new platform called Spot. And we kind of played with this in the last few days. And what we're looking for is a resource to do matchmaking events. So we're looking for next week to get this under our belt so that you can meet one-on-one with your targeted agency or prime, or if there's just like a matchmaking event where there's like 4 or 5 people in a room with the prime. Anyway, that it's really kind of an exciting opportunity. So I don't know if you noticed, but when you logged in, if you had a camera, we had set the camera to go to video automatically, but feel free, for the sake of bandwidth, to go ahead and just turn that off if you need to. We also have a little poll that has 2 sections on it that I'm going to ask Jessica to go ahead and launch that. And we'll give it like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Well, there's only 2 questions you have to answer. So if you would do that, we would appreciate it. And then after we're done with that, then we'll launch into construction, government contracting.
And once again, folks, the poll they're all anonymous, so we would not know what your answers are specifically, so feel free to answer them.
And after we close the poll and have the results, we'll leave that up for just a moment, and so that you can kind of see the responses on here, and then we'll move forward. Looks like there's a lot of diversity on the agencies that you guys are looking to work with. Okay. Also, just a reminder, if you could change your Zoom name to match your registered name or your company, that would really help. You know, and I have the same problem myself. Oh, and actually I need to change because mine is not up to date. So. All right, so now you see me as Leslie Miller, Olympic PTAC. All right, well, I think that we're pretty close. I think probably most everybody's on board. So we can go ahead and share the results of the poll. All right, so we'll let that go ahead and close. And in the meantime, though, I will go ahead and share my screen. Be sure to click the little X to close out of your chat or the poll. And here we go. So this is all about the construction side of government contracting. And if you guys have been part of my other classes, you know that government contracting, they buy everything. So no matter if it's supplies or construction or transportation, catering, you name it. And so as we move on today, we're hoping that Lily Keefe would stop by. She is with the USDOT, Northwest Small Business Transportation Resource Center. Tiffany Scroggs won't be here today. She's actually my boss for Washington PTAC. And I don't think that Colleen will be here today either from Clallam County Economic Development. But Jessica is here from USDOT SBTRC. And my name is Leslie Miller from the Olympic Peninsula, Washington PTAC. And also on the side, we have Andrew Miller, who is helping us with some of the logistics of attendance and all other things. So welcome aboard. And you've seen this before. Who is PTAC? PTAC is funded by the Department of Defense, and we have funds allocated every year by Congress. And PTACs work in conjunction with economic development agencies and colleges. And but our main office is in Thurston County. And of the 93 PTACs in the US, 12 counselors are in Washington State. We do all kinds of things. We help you find the bids, we interpret solicitations, regulations, we help you on the certification and registration process and how to market to government buyers. And we do this by having workshops, one-to-one sessions, and matchmaking events. We also have a little program called Bid Match, which sends you an email, whatever schedule you want, once a day, once a week, once a month, for upcoming opportunities. So let's get started. So when you do government contracting, who is your competition? And this little chart here is really skewed with small business. But if you're a woman-owned small business in the state of Washington, there's 206 certified women-owned small businesses. Nationwide, there's almost 11,000. And for the AA Small Business Development Program, in the state of Washington, there's only 187, and nationwide, there's a little bit over 9,000. If you are a veteran, service disabled veteran-owned small business, Washington State has 1348, and nationwide, there's over 49,000 registered companies. HubZone, historically underutilized small businesses. And I want you to note that these are all federal registrations. And HubZone, there's only 343 in Washington State, but there's 9,573 nationwide. But the big competition is for set-asides for just small business. And in Washington State, 9,435, and nationally, there's about 408,000 small businesses that you are competing against. All right, so let's look at Washington State contracting. So why do you want to contract with Washington State government? Well, the projects are near home. It's a good way to get started in government contracting as either a prime or a subcontractor, and there are not as many competitors. You have projects with colleges, state roads and highways, fire districts, library, water districts, school districts. So, it kind of narrows it down a little bit. The mothership of purchasing in Washington State is actually the Department of Enterprise Services. And this is where they have centralized purchasing oversight. So if the Department of Transportation needs traffic cones, DES is the one who actually requisitions those and has those. If it's USDOT, it's a little bit different, but if it's WashDOT, everybody talks to DES. So you're the University of Washington, you're WSU, you are, any state parks, they all buy things through Department of Enterprise Services. Anything that needs to be set aside as a sole source needs their approval. So if the Department of Natural Resources were in an emergency situation and they needed water trucks, and your water truck was the only one that was not put into service yet, it would be a sole source award, and it would still need to be approved by DES. But under emergency situations, the approval would not be so difficult. And one of the important things for you to know at the state, small business is less than 50 employees or less than $7 million. So in here, we're going to go over a little bit on the state certifications. And the three main bullets on here are Washington State Small Business in WEBs, the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises, and the Washington State Department of Affairs. And we went over this in depth last week. Washington WEBs is the main portal. If you want to be certified as a veteran-owned small business, you have to be in Washington WEBs. If you are looking to be certified as a woman business enterprise or a disadvantaged business enterprise, any of these that are covered by OMWBE, Washington WEBs is also recommended, because Washington WEBs includes not just state and local government agencies. It also includes a large number of prime contractors, and this is guys like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Boeing. So all of those primes look to the registration in webs as a resource to find the DBEs, the SBEs, the MBEs. So the first place you want to stop is with Washington Webs. And we are going to have Caleb McInville here today from Washington State OMWDE. He spoke at our class on Thursday, and Jessica or Andrew Art, is he here yet? Anybody know?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. So just be aware, he'll be here. So moving on. Oh, it says he's here. Okay. So are we ready to admit him?
I believe Caleb is in, but he's supposed to be on at 12:30, so we can have him start earlier too, if you like.
Well, I'll just keep it on, and we'll come back to Caleb. So at 12:30, we'll move over to him. Hi, Caleb. I see ya. All right. So let's talk about Washington State. Important things to know are the dollar thresholds. So they can do a direct buy for anything under $10,000 for goods or services, excluding the tax. And anything under 13,000 has to be made to a micro business, mini business, or small. So I gave you guys the example of refrigerators. If I have a little mom and pop appliance store and they wanted to buy $10,000 worth of refrigerators, well, $9,999 worth of refrigerators, they could just go and buy it directly. If it's over 10,000 but under 13,000, they are still required to buy it from a micro business or mini business or small business. And I have the definitions on here. The micro business is a business that it has a gross revenue less than $1 million. A mini business is one that is revenue between $1 and $3 million. And a small business has 50 or fewer employees or gross revenue less than 7 million over the past 3 consecutive years, or is certified by OMWBE. So keep that in mind. If you are a supplier of traffic cones, and you know that generally the projects, will take, I don't know, a dozen cones for 1 block or whatever you're doing. You need to kind of look at what's going on as far as projects and looking at, what they're buying and I know that there's traffic agencies that will manage these things. But, just kind of keep that in mind for your own company. So we're going to come back here to Washington State Department of Enterprise Services. And again, when you download these slideshows, all of the links on here will take you to where you need to go. So Washington DES is just a screenshot. You want to stay on the government or on the business track on there. And then once you get in under services, you can go in and do the contract searching. And one of the things I wanted to remind you, every single aspect of the classes that PTAC teaches we do a whole day class of the Department of Enterprise Services. So, keep that in mind. And, but if you have any questions about any of the particulars on, janitorial services or the purchasing biweekly bulletin, this is where you would go under the services side of it. This screen here is in Washington Webs. And when you go into Washington Webs, remember, you have to register, and everything on the left-hand side of the screen, you will have visited when you did your initial registration. But like on here, they have aluminum boats, they have state park information, and information on lake access. And so, which department is it? Is it Department of Transportation, Parks and Rec, Fish and Wildlife? So all of this information will help give you some insight as to what's going on. So let's say that you wanted to do the aluminum boat, look at the aluminum boat contract. So in there, they also have an option, are you interested in being notified on this contract? And, if you say yes, you are then on a list, but in the meantime, you can go in and see who else is interested on there. And this is a really great opportunity for you to start doing some market research on your competition at the state level. So Washington State has, public works, US DOT, colleges and universities, and I basically ran out of room because I didn't want to overwhelm you with pages and pages of links. But if you were doing the public works, we'll give this a try, see if we can actually launch. And it's probably underneath, so I need to, let me do a new share to, okay, so this is the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services, Public Works, Design and Construction. And it, it gives you lots and lots of resources for advertised construction projects, bid results. If you bid on something and you're waiting to hear back and then you missed it, you can go in and get some additional information on here. So, like I said, all of my links on my PowerPoint, you're welcome to go ahead and try those out. So I'm just gonna go back, sorry guys, to my, my slideshow left. So just bear with me a second. Oh wait, here it is, okay. All right, so anyway, keep these, and if you can print them to a PDF file, it will retain all of the hyperlinks for you. Okay. All right, so now we're ready to talk about the federal construction contracting, and we'll start into this, and at 12:30 we'll move it over back to our friends from OMWBE. Okay, federal contracting and doing building. So why do you buy from the federal government? The world's biggest customer. They buy everything. They spend lots of money. Their checks never bounce, and they're open to any business. And, that's kind of an important issue there because, it gives your small business equal footing with everybody else across the United States. And looking regionally through the Puget Sound area, big presence, U.S. Navy, JBLM, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Veterans Administration, the U.S. Forest Service, which is actually underneath the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Small Business Administration, Defense Logistics Agency, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and GSA. And we had talked about GSA in my previous classes, whereas GSA is kind of the Costco to the federal government. And your area is really in the fact that the Arctic region for GSA is located right in Auburn. So you are in close proximity to, decision makers and resources for matchmaking down the road. And PTAC always tries to incorporate all of these agencies into our matchmaking events throughout the year. We also talked about government supply priorities. And so who do they buy from and in what order? So the first order is agency inventories. And the example that I use is, say there's the naval base on Whidbey Island, and it's the blue widget story, and they need blue widgets. So first they have to look at all the other naval bases to see if they have blue widgets. If they do not, then they have to look at other agencies, like the Air Force or the Army or, USDA or, Department of Interior. And if they do not have blue widgets, then they have to check with the federal prison industries. And if prison industries don't have it, then they have to go down to what's called the Ability One program, which is the blind and severely handicapped individuals. If they don't make blue widgets, then they have to go through the wholesale supply sources like GSA or Defense Logistics or the Department of Veterans Affairs or military inventory control points. If there are no blue widgets anywhere, then they go and put it out to bid through your firm and other commercial sources. So the reality is that you're the lowest rung on the ladder. And if you have a unique product that is, or service, that's really to your advantage when reaching out to an agency. If you, are in the maritime industries, the Department of the Navy, the Coast Guard, all of those guys are very interested in, what you're looking at. So here's the federal procurement threat, and how are we doing on time? Actually, I think we're right on schedule for OMWBE. And so is available, and do you want to take over the sharing on the screen?
Sure, I'll jump in right here really quickly. So welcome everyone. My name is Caleb McInvale. I'm with the Washington State Office of Minority and Women's Business Enterprises. And what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about our agency, what we are, what we do, talk a little bit about our certifications, what we have, what certifications are available in Washington State through our agency, what they're for, then talk about what businesses are eligible for certifications. And then lastly, talk a little bit about the basics of the application, sort of how it works and how, if you want to get certified, how you can start going about doing that. So first of all, OMWBE, we're part of the state government, and it's our task to certify primarily women and minority-owned businesses, but also other disadvantaged small businesses, and ensure that they're getting equal participation in state contracting. The state is spending its money in an equitable fashion. So state agencies report their spending with certified businesses to us, and we work with them to ensure that those businesses are getting work and that they're being given a fair shake in contracting. So what is certification? Businesses will come to us that are small businesses that are owned by women or minorities or otherwise disadvantaged individuals. We also do have a general small business certification that I'll get to in a second. But most of our certifications are for women, minorities, or otherwise disadvantaged individuals. And then we're going to verify that those businesses meet our certification criteria, which is essentially that they're a small business, they're owned and controlled by women or minorities, and they meet our net worth threshold. But I'll get into those in a bit more detail in a second. So we have two primary types of certification programs, and especially if you're hearing about some of the certifications with the federal government, like the SBA today, these might be a little bit confusing, but all of our certifications are for working with state government entities. So they're not working directly with the federal government, even though we call this first one a federal certification. It's going to be working only with the state government, so with state universities, state agencies like the State Department of Transportation or the Department of Enterprise Services that was mentioned a little bit ago, all working with Washington state government. The federal certification we have is because it's for federally funded transportation projects that are going to be run out of local Washington state entities. So like the State Department of Transportation, if they're building a road that has money from the US Department of Transportation, there's a specific certification for that instance. And that's this federal certification program we have. It's largely going to be construction work related to public works and infrastructure projects. So road building at all the work that Sound Transit's doing, which is a lot in the King County area, is all federally funded. Also building of airports, seaports, construction of new ferries, things like that. All of that is rolled into that federal certification. It's narrowly focused only on the transportation sector, but there's a lot of support work that goes into these projects. So even if you're not directly related to transportation, if you're in the construction industry, there's probably going to be some kind of work that you can do on one of these projects. Because some of them are really big, but also some small municipalities have small projects that they just don't have the funds to do themselves. They can get funds from the federal government to do, build a small bridge, improve an intersection, something like that. We also do have a state certification too, which is much more broadly applicable. This is for any good or service that the state wants to purchase, or any construction project that's only state funded. So this is going to be really broad. Everything essentially that the state purchases is covered under this, so long as it doesn't have federal funds from the US Department of Transportation. And in that specific case, we use that federal certification. But everything else falls into the state certification bucket. Many companies will have both certifications, the federal and the state. The eligibility criteria, which I'll talk about later, are nearly identical. We did that by design, so you can get both certifications. The specific types that are under here, this is a little bit complicated, but just listing these out here so that you know what the acronyms might be and what, there's some of these descriptions, you've heard about it, and I'll walk through these, but if you don't remember all of the specific types, that's okay. So underneath the federal certification, so this is for those US Department of Transportation funded projects by WashDOT or Sound Transit or something like that. There's the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which is the largest of these, and most people, this is what you're going to be looking for. It's for women or minority or otherwise disadvantaged businesses wanting to work on those federally funded construction contracts. There's also the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which is very, very laser focused on just businesses operating in airports that get federal money. There's not that many of those businesses, but it's mostly going to be restaurants or retail businesses operating at the airport. Then lastly, there's the small business enterprise. This is also for working on those same federally funded transportation projects, but it's open to people of any race or gender. It's not as powerful as that disadvantaged business enterprise certification, but it can still be beneficial for businesses to get certified this way. Then down to our state certification, there's no real difference in these different certification types here. The only difference between these is that there's the demographics of the business owner. So for a minority business enterprise, it's a minority male-owned business. Minority woman business enterprise is pretty self-explanatory. Woman business enterprise is for my non-minority woman-owned business. And then there's two special case certifications for one where the business is shared equally between people. And that last one, if you've heard me saying other disadvantaged individuals, it's for people that don't neatly fit into some of the other boxes, but are still discriminated against in US society. And I'll explain what that looks like in a little bit when I'm talking about the qualifications. So this is probably a really important question here. Why get certified? In a nutshell, it makes your business much more competitive, particularly when you're working with the government. For those federally funded transportation projects I mentioned, there are mandatory goals for participation for businesses that have this specific certification. And what that means is that a prime contractor, so a large construction company that wins one of these potentially multi-billion-dollar projects, has to spend a certain percentage of that money with certified firms. And that might be 8%, 10%, 15%. And if they don't spend that amount of money with businesses that are certified, they could face serious penalties, including monetary penalties, contract sanctions, and they could even be debarred and prevented from contracting further with the government if they don't comply with this program. So it makes your business extremely competitive on those projects because that prime contractor really, really needs to get certified businesses participate on these projects because there can be serious consequences if they don't. So that's for that federal program. For the state program, we don't have mandatory goals. We have voluntary goals, which means that we're working aspirationally with all state agencies to increase the amount that they're spending with certified businesses. So it's not quite as powerful because there isn't that sort of penalty behind it if the agency doesn't spend as much, but we definitely make sure that they're reporting all of their spending to us. We collaboratively work with them and give them tools to increase spending. And it can definitely give your business a leg up against the competition when you want to work with state government. Some private companies also do use our certifications, but the main focus of the certification is to do business with the government, particularly the state government. It can also just increase your business's visibility just by being included in our directory. All certified businesses get included on our public directory of certified firms. So just anyone who wants to find businesses that are particularly women or minority owned can search our directory, find your business, contact you, and ask you for work. Or just know that yes, you are a legitimate woman or minority owned business. The state has taken a look and vetted that, which can be a big benefit for some people, and you can use that in your marketing as well. Also, businesses that have that state certification are eligible for our link deposit loan program, which is a loan assistance program the state offers, which can give you a reduced interest rate on qualifying business loans. So business loans have to be made from a participating bank to your business. And then once you have that loan in hand or that line of credit, we can reduce the interest rate by up to 2%, depending on how high interest rates are currently. If you have more questions about that, I can definitely answer them, but there's a list of the participating banks on our website there as well. So next is what businesses are eligible for certification. A lot of these are going to be similar if you have had a chance to look through some of the SBA requirements for the women-owned businesses and women-owned disadvantaged businesses. They're quite similar to that, but there are some differences. So we verify that all businesses are small is the first thing we look at. This is the definition we use is the Small Business Administration's definition. It's based on your company's NAICS code, which is your North American Industry Classification System. It's a way of classifying all different businesses if you're not aware of it. So each different industry can have a slightly different cap depending on your business size. There's a pretty big range in there, but regardless of the different industry your business is working in, there's an overall program limit. So some industries, the limits are closer to around $8 million a year, but regardless, and then some are pretty high in like the 55 or something like that. But regardless of the industry you're working in, you can't do more than $23.98 million in business a year. It's your gross receipts. That's a pretty healthy limit, and most small businesses are going to be able to sit comfortably underneath that. Companies need to be licensed to do business in the state and have sort of completed all the necessary steps in order to do their work. There's no requirement that your business has been in business for a certain amount of time or something like that, but you need to be able to legally do your work. You also need to show us that your company can independently perform its services so that it has access to all the necessary staff and equipment to do its work, but also it doesn't overly rely on some other company through equipment sharing or something like that in order to do its work. It can sort of stand on its own 2 feet. Typically speaking, women or minorities are eligible for for the certification. Other individuals can also be eligible on a case-by-case basis if they can show us that they've been discriminated against in U.S. society. This applies to all certifications except for that small business one, which is you don't have to be a woman or minority. Any person of any race or gender is eligible for that specific small business. But for all others, it has to be a woman or minority owned or otherwise disadvantaged. So eligible people, again, typically women or minorities, have to make up at least 51% of the business ownership. So they need to own the majority of the company. It doesn't have to be one person. It can be a group together owns more than half of the company, but it does need to be more than half women or minority owned. And those majority owners, so the people that own the majority of the company, also need to control the business, manage the day-to-day operations of the company, and have legal control as well. They can't sort of hire a general manager that's going to do most of the business functions and sort of sit back and sort of make occasional decisions. They need to be actively involved with the day-to-day running of the business. To be eligible, because this is regardless of whether you're working with that small business program or with the women or minority owned business program, everyone does need to meet the net worth limit, which is $1.32 million. And there are some exclusions on that, like it doesn't look at the value of your house if you own one and you live there. It also doesn't look at the value of the business that's applying for certification as well. So if you are interested in getting certified, there's an all online application that's available on our website, which is just listed there at wbe.wa.gov. And you can click on Start or Renew Your Certification. From there, you'll be taken to our online certification portal where you can create an account for your business. Upload documents, answer questions, and start that specific application. One thing before you get started is you'll be prompted to choose whether you want the state certification, the federal certification, or that specific small business certification. If you do want both the state and federal certification at the same time, you can submit the federal application, and the first question will be, do you also want state certification? You just say yes, and we can give you both at the same time, make it easier for you. We can't do that with the small business certification because that's only for the federal certification, but all other certification types, if you're a woman or minority owned business, we can give you both the federal and the state at the same time. It's all online. You're going to answer questions, upload documents to the system. You're not going to have to complete it in one sitting. It'll save all your answers as you go through. And if you have any questions or you're having any difficulty using the application, you don't understand things, feel free to contact us and we're happy to help you out with that. There are some slight differences in terms of how frequently these certifications renew and things like that. So once you have submitted an application, the federal certification will renew every 3 years. It's a pretty simple process, luckily, for the renewal. The original application is pretty detailed. Leslie may have gotten into some of the documents that are required for the other certifications. We're working with the federal government, but it's pretty similar. There's going to be a lot of documents about that document sort of show, yes, you meet all these different criteria. You're a legitimate business. You control this company. You got it started. Where did the money come from? Things like that, which can take some time to put together. The renewal process is pretty easy. You just sign a form and provide your most recent tax return, and that's all we need to see. There's also some small fees associated with both the federal and the state certification. The state certification does renew every 3 years. So only every third year after you've gotten certified would you need to renew that. It's a similarly simple renewal process, and there's also a small fee associated with that. However, if you are going to get both the federal and the state at the same time through that one federal application that I mentioned, I'm just saying, yes, you also want state certification. Initially, you'll only pay the fee for the federal certification and you will get both, but in the future, you will have to submit both renewals. So if you don't think you're ever going to work on any of the federally funded transportation projects, it's not really beneficial in the long run for you to seek that federal certification. And again, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact us here. Our phone line, email are great ways to get a hold of us. I've also put my information here too. I used to be a certification analyst, which were the specialists that work through all these applications, so I can answer very technical questions if you do have them. We also post regular updates and resources to our social media. So if you're interested in learning more about local grant programs or other opportunities for free classes, please give us a follow on social media as well. But that's about it for me. Does anyone have any questions?
So Caleb, this is Leslie. Do you have any upcoming events scheduled for small businesses to attend on completing their paperwork for OMWBE?
We do. So we have some online certification classes, and I can put the link in the chat box for those. We have two different classes. One of them is a certification 101, which I'm actually giving tomorrow, but it's sort of a slightly more in-depth version of this. Unless you have a lot more questions on some of the stuff that's involved here, I wouldn't say you'd need to take that. But we also have monthly, what's called our certification 201, where I will walk through the entire federal application from creating an account to every single question and document in the application. I do that monthly, and it's all available for free on Eventbrite. So if you're having any difficulties with the application, feel free to join that. But you can also just shoot me an email and saying, hey, I don't understand question X. Can you explain it to me or something like that? We can't tell you how to answer questions. However, we are an agency with regulatory authority, which means we're deciding whether your business is eligible or not. So we can't tell you what's the best way to answer a question to make sure you're certified. But we can explain the question and make sure you understand it and tell you what we're looking for.
Thank you.
Caleb, can you talk about the importance of having the corresponding NEST code to your business when you are applying for the certification?
Sure. Yeah. One of the aspects of when you apply for certification is you input what different types of work your company can perform. There's two different ways you do that with a business description, which is just you write a small description about, doesn't have to be super small, but about what your business does. And then you also select specific NAICS codes for what different types of work your company does. And those are the two best ways for state agencies or contractors to find your business. So you'll want to take some time when you're applying for certification to take a look at those different NAICS codes and make sure you're really including all the different areas your business can perform in. We can only certify you in areas that you can show us you can do, but if you can do all these different types of work, the more that's included in your certification, the more you're going to be eligible, more different types of work you're going to be eligible to do under your certification. And that also means the more different types of work you're going to get. If your certification doesn't include a specific NAICS code, particularly for the federal program, they won't be able to count your business as doing that type of work. So let's just say you typically do concrete work and you've recently expanded into doing rebar, but you don't have any kind of, that's not included in your NAICS codes. You've only done sort of precast concrete and you haven't done any work with rebar in the past. You might not be able to get your participation counted. If you've recently been able to do that and you haven't added that to your certification, it needs to be part of your certification in order to be counted for participation on these federal projects. So it's very important that you include everything that your company does do right now in your certification, but also that you update that as you go along if you're already certified, which is something you can do through us. You can always just ask, hey, I want to add this code or I want to add this part of my description to my certification, and we can do that for you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thanks, Caleb. You know, as a PTAC, I've worked with a lot of people doing their OMWB certification. And, you know, there's some really important things that need to be paid attention to in regards to the application process, and particularly woman-owned. Yeah, if you're a woman small business and you're married in a community property state and control the company, making everyday decisions, yeah, there's a lot going on with that. And so, you know, if anybody in our audience today has any questions about any of that, Caleb or I would be happy to give you a hand. So thank you, Caleb. We appreciate you helping out. And I guess we'll head back to the rest of my class. Thanks,
And I can stick
Caleb.
around for a few more minutes, but I will have to leave at around 12:55. So.
Oh, okay. If you have any more questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat, and we'll get those to Caleb one way or the other. All right, thank you. All right, so we left off talking about federal procurement thresholds. And, you know, we only have a few minutes, and some of this is redundant from our past classes, but anything that is less than $10,000 is considered a micro purchase. And generally they're bought with a government purchase card, AKA credit card. If it is right between $10,000 and $25,000, then the agency is required to get 3 or more quotes, either by phone or in writing. If it's 25,000 or above, all these solicitations have to be advertised, and the #1 place for advertising is in the Federal Business Opportunities section on sam.gov. And you know, we talked about SAM transforming next week or the week after that. But in the meantime, you know, if you go to look for Fed Biz Ops, it'll bring you up to the right location. And then the simplified acquisition threshold is $250,000. Anything under that is set aside for small businesses, with a few exceptions. All right, moving on. I apologize for the lag time. Oh, sure, then it goes too fast. So how does the contract get to you? You know, just follow the arrows on here, and you know, the agency establishes requirements. They have to go through this laundry list of criteria, figure out who they're setting aside for. They prepare the solicitation, make an announcement. They find the potential contractors, and the potential contractor in the solicitation, they review it, they submit a bid, and then the agency has to review all those, and then they award the contract. After the contract is awarded, the contractor has to perform the work, and then the contractor will submit the billing for their work. We talked a little bit about the alphabet soup before, and on the slideshow, you actually have the definitions of all these. The Small Business Administration will be a tremendous resource for you if you can't get in touch with PTAC or, you know, any of these other training sessions. They have a lot of information, and you have a local office right in Seattle. There's another office in Spokane. Let's talk about federal business certifications. And while we were listening to Caleb, I was doing a real quick lookup on the set aside. So the reason the federal government has certifications for small business, veteran-owned service, disabled veteran-owned, woman-owned, economically disadvantaged woman-owned, HUBZone, and SBA 8A small business, because they are mandated to set aside a percentage of their contracts to these small businesses. And I'm going to load this into your resource folder in the Dropbox. So 23% of all federal contracts have to go to small businesses. 5% of those have to go to the 8A or the small disadvantaged business. 5% has to go to woman-owned small business. 3% has to go to the service disabled veteran-owned small business. And 3% goes to hub zones. So with that, first you have to get registered, and this is sam.gov as the way it looks today. And it will allow you to create a user profile and register your entity so that now that you're registered in SAM, you can apply for certifications through the Small Business Administration and be entitled to those set-asides. So in SAM, two areas in particular, the contract opportunities and the federal procurement data systems. Yeah, this will be important information for you. The others are worthwhile, but the FBO and the FPDS-DS.NG are critical for just getting started to see what's out there and who your competition is. The other thing is the cybersecurity maturity model certification. And if you are doing anything with IT, this is something that you definitely have to pay attention to. You know, if you contract with somebody to manage your IT and you have a federal contract, you know, you are responsible for making sure that they're in compliance with the certification program. So kind of winding up because we're running out of time here real quick. It's important that you can find federal opportunities. Washington Webs is state of Washington, but they will post some federal opportunities in there, particularly for USDOT. Fed Biz Ops, we just talked about that. And then PTAC's bid match. And, you know, if you're doing timber management and you look for firefighting equipment, or you're looking for firefighters or transportation for firefighters, bid match will help you find, you know, who's looking for this. You know, if it's the U.S. Forest Service or it's the Washington State Department of Natural Resources. It's a 30-day free trial. Other than that, it's $165 a year. If you want to know more, just give me a call or send me an email. Other opportunities, looking for subcontracts, looking at credit card purchases, GSA activity, emergency purchases, and the Defense Supply Center. And then other resources are the Forest Service and you know, marketplace sellers. DIBS is kind of a major entity, and that too is an all-day class on DIBS. SAM.gov, and then we included Oregon on here if you want to find opportunities in Oregon. All right, so you're registered, and the main thing to do is determine who your target market is, and then market to them and search for opportunities. And on Thursday, I'm teaching a class on market research and creating your marketing materials. And so identifying, you know, knowing who's buying what, make sure that all your promotional materials are targeting. Yeah, if it's a federal agency, you have to have specifics on there. If it's a state, you know, they have other criteria. Understand and know the procurement cycles attend trade shows and events when we can be back in person again, and then look at agency forecasts and budgets. And on this slide, I gave you some good resources. USAspending.gov is one of my favorite places to see what has been bought from the past. And then the agency forecast, what is the Navy buying? What is the Coast Guard buying? Anyway, those are just simple resources for you. The rules to live by, we kind of talked before. Don't be late. Do be responsive. Do not lose your passwords. It's a simple thing, but it's overwhelming when you start doing government contracting because there's so many passwords and so many agencies. Don't pay for what you can get for free. PTAC is free. SBTRC is free. And, check with PTAC and we'll tell you if it's a legitimate thing or not. One of the biggest fraud things out there is getting registered on SAM, and it'll only cost you like $4,000, or you can call back and PTAC will help you do it free. Get it in writing, be proactive, call PTAC with questions. So here's our PTAC resources in the slideshow. If you need to talk to somebody, give us a call. And there we are. Any questions? And we have like 0 time. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and your questions in the chat, and I can kind of answer them. In the meantime, we can take a little break and come back at 1:10. And when we come back, Graham Ralston from Ralston Law is going to come and talk to you about some really fun stuff, business growth and planning. Let me take a look at the questions and see what we have. So Jessica or Andrew, are there any big questions there that you need me to direct?
Not a question free in the chat so far.
Okay.
Feel free to speak up, guys.
All right. Well, some of it may be review because of the last couple of weeks of PTAC, but we'll take a break and we'll come back at 10 after 1 for Graham Ralston. Thanks, guys. So if you live on the Olympic Peninsula and are interested in being certified as subzone, please give me a quick email or give me a call. So with that, I'm going to turn my video off and we'll let Graham go ahead and start moving forward. We have a poll posted for you, and as soon as that's ended, we'll share the results with you, and I'll leave that up to Jessica. All right, so good.
All right, good afternoon. Leslie, am I good to go? Jessica?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's great to join everyone today here on the call. I'm going to be talking about business growth, both untraditional, what they aren't telling you, and traditional. And I'm really excited to be with everyone here today. The bonding education program and government programs are near and dear to my heart. Before I started my own private practice in 2018, I was actually with the U.S. Department of Transportation, where I was a senior advisor and also the director of the Office of Small Business from 2010 to 2018. So I've experienced working on all of those different OSDBU programs, the pleasure of working with Lily for all of those years in my time with DOT. And actually the very start of the bonding education program when we launched it all the way back in 2010. In my private practice, I like to say that I'm a solutions-focused problem solver, and that being an attorney and a CPA are just additional tools for me to help solve problems for my clients. I've worked with thousands of small business owners through public service, private practice, and pro bono. And why am I back in Seattle with my private practice? Well, I grew up on the beautiful Olympic Peninsula in Port Angeles, Washington. Then I eventually went to the University of Washington for undergraduate and Seattle University School of Law. Before then, I went to DC after law school. I put my contact information in the slide. I'm open to connecting with anyone via email, but you're also going to see a new product called Spot at the end of this presentation, where I'm also happy to take any kind of pro bono meetings with anyone and just talk through maybe any legal, financial issues you might be experiencing or questions if you want to have a one-on-one with me. I like to be really interactive. I know that there's a Q&A at the end of my presentation, but I wanted to start off by, and this is a good way to get, we just had a break. I want to get everyone a little bit active and engaged into the presentation. And I want to get an idea of, go ahead and pull up your chat. And I want to see, what do you guys think is the most important part of your small business? And take a minute here, and I'm going to try and pull up the chat if I can while I'm presenting, and see what your guys' responses are. Or maybe Jessica, you can help read off as people start responding for me.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Don't be shy, guys. What do you think is the most important part of your small business?
We have Trisha says the employees, and we have Abby says the sales and the customers. And we have Muhammad that says to grow his business is the most important thing.
Anyone else? Open Q&A time. All right, guys. Well, thank you for those responses. I think that all, out of those responses, they're all important to your business. I just, in my experience, feel like the most important part of your business at the top there is you. You as the small business owner. A lot of times, if you're the only employee for your business, which I know one person said employees, which I feel like is the second most important part of your business, but you as an individual, if you were the only person working in the business, that is what's most important. So you developing, you being healthy mentally and physically, developing good habits in your personal life, because what you do personally is going to carry over into your business life. You can't expect to be messy with everything that you're doing personally, and then all of a sudden run a very organized and clean business. So it's good to always be focused on you first, and not in a selfish way, but thinking that the better off you are, or the greater capacity you are taking care of yourself, the greater capacity you have to serve employees in your company, serve the customers that you're working with or partners that you're working with. And this carries over back from, personal to business, business to personal. It's just the greatest asset in your organization is you as the individual. And then the next most important thing is generally that next person that you hire. The next person, then the next person after that, that unless you have some kind of patent in your corporation, that human capital is the most important asset of your business. It's where all of your revenue, your labor, developing of relationships, human capital is the most important part of your business. Now we'll get into, this is a quick way to try and get into saying, this isn't just a traditional business growth plan class. We're not just going to go through what are the elements of a business plan. It's thinking outside of what the traditional storyline has been for 20 or 30 years, that going into a business growth class, it's about identifying different elements, which this presentation does cover. It's good for you to know still those important elements. But what really matters in spending time with thousands of small business owners and seeing what small businesses set themselves apart from the pack are those that focus on your why. That's something that an author called Simon Sinek focuses on a lot. We're going to talk about not letting traditional methods of a business plan become a mental roadblock for moving forward. Looking at how do you develop a relationship maybe with a mentor who's already at a place where you want to go. And people are everything, including your network, and then also smart growth. So we're going to focus on these untraditional aspects of business growth first and spend more time here before then we briefly go through traditional aspects of business planning and growth, even though there's a lot of content in traditional planning for you guys to review kind of on your own time. We're not going to spend a lot of time in this presentation talking about it. I want to spending the majority of our time on these 5 points. I saw there was a chat. Was there a question that came in? Oh, another, yeah, client base, existing client relationships. Okay. That was, I'm guessing, an answer to what is the most important part of your business. So we'll go next to what is your why? 2 great quotes from Simon Sinek. If you can clearly articulate the dream or the goal, then go ahead and start. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So think about that. Can you clearly articulate the dream of your business? Do you have a mission statement? Is your purpose clear? This is a fundamental question for you as a business owner, or even if you've started your business and you haven't clearly articulated this value proposition. It's important not only for you and the vision that you share with the employees, but it also creates a stronger relationship or bond when you can clearly express your value of your company with a potential customer, a potential prime, or a new potential relationship. This is where developing your mission statement and your core values being what are a list of values your company stands for? Does it stand for integrity, innovation, curiosity? There's all kinds of different guides that can give you some examples of core values. And it's not about going and just picking core values from there. It's about really brainstorming and making this an exercise for yourself. But it can also be a great exercise if you have employees, so you get buy-in from them as to the vision that you're all working towards and building on. Those core values in the mission become the foundation for your business moving forward that you end up building everything else on top of. And if you've already started building, one of those bullet points back here is don't let methods become mental roadblocks. That's okay. You can take these at different steps. If you've already moved forward with your business and you're a couple years in, this is still going to add a lot of value to coming and helping you still create that infrastructure of values and a mission for your business. What do I mean by roadblocks? Well, I think a lot of us get into the habit or, have a poor habit sometimes of thinking that we need to have things be perfect before we actually move forward with our business growth. That, I can't go out and talk to this customer yet because I don't have my why. Or I can't go talk to this customer or prime because I haven't finished my business plan yet. Or I haven't finished this aspect. While it's good to be prepared, You don't want a lack of perfection or preparedness to get in the way of your ability to grow. Okay? Don't let the lack of preparedness get in the way of your ability to grow. If you're just starting out, if you don't have many contracts, there's not much risk that you're already facing. You want to be trying to create risk for yourself because now you've got growth to worry about, and be juggling then building an infrastructure and putting together a business plan at the same time. Okay? Don't let these traditional business plans stunt the growth of what you can do as a business. Your business plan is actually a living document that continues to grow with you. It's not something that you're writing in stone and then you're set to it for the eternity of your business. And that's how you can justify saying it's good to move forward and start bringing on customers. And as you learn from that trial and error, you're actually going to be adjusting and modifying your business plan as you move along. Road already traveled. This deals with work smarter, not harder. You could either start all on your own, no information at all, develop all the documents on your own, or you can talk to another business owner that's already been in a similar spot, that's already in a place where you want to go or that you're heading towards. Leslie brought up a great point that there's a free resources where you can tap into some of these, whether it's the SBDCs, the PTACs, the SBTRCs, free resources. Let these people serve as mentors to you. So instead of spending maybe 20 or 30 hours trying to figure out a problem, maybe a half an hour conversation with a government resource provider or a mentor would get you to that solution that much faster for where you want to go. This is one of the most valuable tools that I would encourage each and every one of you to, if you don't already have mentorships in place, just to focus on next as a business owner. Find that mentor, and if they've found success, they've probably already focused on their mission and their why, and they're going to reinforce what I'm telling you here today, that those concepts were very important for their success as well. If you're concerned about business owners in this area being in a competitor, you can always look outside the state, but also business owners in a similar space that are much further ahead of you are probably not looking at you as a competitor if you're just starting out and starting to grow. In fact, they may look at you as a potential strategic resource, as someone that they could potentially enter into some kind of joint venture agreement with. You can also lean on your professionals that you're hiring. When you're looking at your attorneys, CPAs, bankers, anyone else, try and find professionals that have specialized experience within your industry so that they bring that network to you and that specialized niche insight into the engagement with you. Network, as someone just mentioned that in the chat, when we flipped back there a few minutes ago, in addition to what was already discussed in some of these last slides, it's developing that network of individuals. It doesn't just have to be the professionals or other companies. It's representatives at some of these primes that that are important to sell to, contracting officers in different government organizations. You want to think about your network as broad as possible at the start to help you go down the proper roads. And as then you start to narrow the path and clearly define your why and your value proposition, then you also really start to narrow in your network on those people that are specifically in that industry that you're going towards. Your network also becomes consistent salespeople for you, which is a great value add that as you build these brand, a bond and a relationship, this goes back to your why. If you can clearly explain your value proposition and you're consistently sharing that with your network, well, now when your friend or another relationship comes across someone else that says, hey, do you know anyone that could do this kind of job for me? You know what they're going to remember? They're going to remember you sharing that clearly defined value proposition of the skill sets that you provide. If you've never provided those people in your network with that clearly defined mission statement or what you're providing as a business, you're making it more difficult on people in your network to resell your business. Also, when you're thinking about your network, your customers are your network, right? If you do a great job for your customers, they can become your greatest salespeople, whether it's through reviews or rehiring you for future jobs, or just that referral to a new business that's asking them. Network, network, network. Smart growth, okay? Not just business growth. What's smart growth as a business? We meant this first point, we talked briefly about this. What is your risk when you're just starting off? Almost nothing, okay? You don't have any revenue coming in, you don't have any employees. There's absolutely almost nothing at risk in this point for your business. You don't start to develop risk as a business until you start to hire people or take on contracts. And this is where we talk about don't let a business plan hinder you from moving forward and getting revenue going, because you don't even have any risk at that point. You need to start generating revenue for your business. Okay, you get that first contract, you get that second contract, third contract. And as you start then maybe taking on that second and third contract, now maybe you're focusing more on those technical aspects of the business plan that we're going to get into. I still think there's a lot of value in defining your why early on, which is subject to change. But it's also from talking to these different customers and trying to generate revenue that helps you develop that why. It's that trial and error and having the mindset of, I'm okay with failing. I'm okay with customers saying no, and taking that not as a defeat, but an opportunity to change your value proposition or change about what you're doing as a business so that you're better the next time you approach another customer. Smart growth also means thinking about your insurance, your bonding, your line of credit, which are all vital infrastructure for your capacity building. I'm not suggesting that you make this a absolute priority that you go and get a line of credit before you even have a contract. But as you start to take on a couple of those contracts and you're ready to move to the next level, well, do you have the capacity to take on those different contracts? Do you have the right levels of insurance to cover the risk that you're starting to create for yourself? Smart growth is about infrastructure capacity building and really developing that. And that's a little bit more into the traditional business plan that we'll get in here next. Network, employees, and resources that are vital to your labor infrastructure. This goes back to smart growth, that maybe you have some employees that are actually independent contractors that instead of making the 40-hour commitment to, now you've got them somewhat on demand. You're lowering your risk in terms of your financial obligations, but now you're also increasing your capacity as an owner to take on new jobs because you already have these relationships with independent contractors. It's also that developing of a network of maybe it's other companies that you could quickly enter into a joint venture with. It's about taking advantage of opportunities as they come up. It's being prepared for that. If a company reaches out to you and say, hey, can you take on this job? We need you to fill in immediate notice 2 weeks from today. Well, if you're not already prepared with the right network, the right infrastructure, you're probably not going to be able to pull that together. But if you've already put in the work of networking, the right insurance, the right capacity building, now you can start to leverage your preparedness for opportunities as they come up. Another great quote, and I might be butchering this a little bit, but the greatest resource is being resourceful. And that was from Tony Robbins. So it's not just thinking about the business and the value proposition that you provide, but as a small business owner, we know that sometimes we're doing our own marketing, we're doing our own invoicing, accounting, bookkeeping, that we're doing a lot of this work ourselves. And it's about how do we become resourceful in any challenge that we encounter? Because there is a guarantee as a small business owner, and that's you're going to come across a lot of challenges. And they come in all different forms, shapes, sizes. And it's about being resilient against those challenges and being resourceful to solve any of those problems that come your way. We're about to go into traditional business planning. Before I do, are there any questions? Does anyone want to talk about any of those untraditional aspects of business planning and growth? Okay, we're gonna have a quick drink of my tea. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward into learning objectives for traditional business planning. What are the essential elements of a business plan? How do you identify a good business plan and create an anchor for continued success? Anchor being infrastructure again, and additional resources that can help you develop an effective business plan. A business plan is for those that have never worked on one. It's a written document that helps you define the goals of your business and describes how you'll attain those goals. You set objectives, define budgets, engage partners, anticipate problems before they occur. If you were to just Google business plan template in today's world, you will find Word documents, PowerPoint presentations. There's actually multiple software companies that provide business planning advice that kind of pre-structure different ways to create your business plan. Once again, my favorite is going back to untraditional methods. Talk to those mentors, talk to your PTACs, SBDCs, talk to people that are in your industry that have already developed a business plan. You know, some of it is going through it, the business plan yourself, so you're empowered and have a better understanding. But it's nice to see a predefined template that you can edit as long as you're still going to be motivated to go through and make those changes. But there's no reason why you need to start from zero and why you can't adopt or take what someone has already found a lot of success with. And then how do you modify that to what your why is, what your culture is, who you are as a person, so that it fits you. It's really difficult to take what fits for another person and what fits you. We're all unique in our own way. So you want to make sure that you're modifying your infrastructure to the culture and personality that you're bringing to your business. 10 reasons why you might need a business plan. Number one, there's 10 reasons and they're not ordered in priority, but number one priority for me is just infrastructure and organization. Going back to it as a reference and as a living document, as things that you should be thinking about if you haven't already started a business before or haven't already found success in a business, that these are just good ways to keep you organized as a business owner. And then the ancillary outcomes of developing the business plan is, yes, it can help you with raising, a bank. If you go for that line of credit, they're traditionally going to ask you for a business plan so they get an idea of what you're doing. But it's really more about that empowerment of learning about your business that you're going to be creating and the industry as a whole. How detailed should your business plans be? Well, I think at the very start, when there's nothing to risk, it's just about, don't make your business plan become a roadblock. Okay, I don't want to see anyone developing a 20 or 30 page business plan if it's going to take you a year to develop and actually get off the ground. Now, if you can put together a 20 and 30-page business plan in a week, and that's not going to prevent you from actually getting out there and networking and talking to people and selling your business, then do that. But make sure that you're doing a business plan that can organically fit into you also pursuing growth as a business. There's some examples in here. You can read it on your own time. But just remember, it's about the fit for you in developing organically a business plan that doesn't prevent or cause roadblocks for you moving forward. But what are some of those components in your business plan? Well, an overview of the business, products and services, marketing plan. How are you going to go about sharing your product with contracting officers or people in your industry? Are you going to be on Google as a small business owner? Are you going to have search engine optimization? Are you going to be on LinkedIn, Instagram? Once again, this goes back to if you can find a mentor, right? Your mentor can help give you a guide that they've already found success in. This is where that value of their trial and error of success over years and years, they can save you hundreds, if not thousands of hours as a new small business owner. They can already tell you where you're going to find success based on your industry, where to start marketing. A financial management plan. What are those financial statements? How are you going to create infrastructure so that you're getting readily useful information from your financial reports that tell you, oh, this type of job that I was bidding on, I had a great gross profit margin here. Oh, this one I actually lost money on. How do I remedy this for the next time around? Operations, meaning what are your internal controls? How are you documenting what your processes and procedures should be? The assistant that's working for you now, is he or she going to be there 30 years from now, right? Are you creating a documented list so that you have contingency plans that if someone leaves your organization, that the next person can seamlessly come back in and pick it up? Or you as the small business owner, which we know this happens a lot, if you're a small business and you've got 3 people and someone immediately has to leave, how do you pick that up? Well, a lot of times that's you, right? And are people documenting those processes so that you can also easily just pick up where that last person left off? 7 common parts of a great business plan: that executive summary, the overview, your business concept. This goes back to tying it into a little bit of what is your why, market analysis, who are your competitors, how much value is in the market that you're going after. Is it a 300 billion market? Something in the market analysis right now might be the federal government is trying to roll out a large-scale infrastructure plan, right? That's a new opportunity in your market analysis. Who's part of your team? Where are you going with your marketing plan, your financial plan, and operations? We just touched on those a little bit. Executive summary, we just touched on that. I don't feel like we need to dig deeper there. Your business concept. This, because I feel like it's so important, I'm going to hit this again. You're trying to articulate that vision of the company. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Are you passionate about it? Why did you get your start in creating a construction company or creating, maybe you're making signage on roads? How are you helping people feel connected to your vision? Do you, is it was there something in your life that made you feel like there was a safety mechanism that you wanted to prevent someone else from losing their life, which gave you this idea and this passion to develop a solution to that problem? Give people an opportunity to connect with you by really spending time on articulating the value of your business, the value of why you're doing it. What are your core values? What is your mission? I can't emphasize that enough. Market analysis, once again, going back to segments of your customers, your market share, positions your products and services, discussing pricing, what's your rate per hour? Once again, great information from a mentor. If you go into a job and you're incorrectly pricing stuff, you might lose money. Good thing there's a bidding part of the bonding education program component. Because if you underbid and underprice yourself and undersell yourself, you could be putting yourself out of business. And that's actually the majority of the time where I've seen construction companies fail, is because they are so excited to win a contract. They don't understand that the contract that they just signed put them out of business. I'll say that again. The number one reason why I've seen construction companies fail, in my experience, is because they are so excited to sign a contract that they sign a contract that is bad for them as a business. Meaning they're not even going to break even, that they're just trying, they want a contract, they're going to take it on, they're actually going to lose money on it. It's going to put them under, or it's got too restrictive terms that they're not going to get paid on time or with certain terms. And then that small business owner is not going to be able to pay their employees on time. And you're going to run into all kind of capacity issues as a small business owner. Your management team, well, if it's just you, that's going to keep this section easy, right? I think it's important to think about, as your management team, it's also your brain trust team or your networking team, that who's my attorney, my CPA, my bookkeeper, my banker, who are my other additional free professional resources like my PTAC, SBTRC, SBDC, who are my mentors, who are some of my colleagues in the industry that I can reach out to. And then, of course, who are your next hires? And I think that this is a really important part for businesses to be thinking about. You don't wait, and this is applicable to any part of your business. You don't wait until you need something to act on it. You are always planning and thinking a step ahead. That's the mentality that you need to have. You don't wait until you actually need to hire that next person in the business. You want to think you are always in the mindset of hiring. Why should you always be in the mindset of hiring? Well, if you actually get to the point of needing someone, do you know how long it takes to hire that next most important person in your business? Do you want to be rushed to hire that next person in your business and only have 2 or 3 weeks to decide on the largest capital investment many of you as a small business owner will face? No. You want to be evaluating people throughout the growth of your business so that when you're thinking about bringing that next person on, you've already identified that person. Not only that person, but the backup and the backup to that person. Okay. This is applicable not only into your hiring, but also capacity building. You don't wait until you need a line of credit and you're 2 weeks out to say, hey, banker, can you get me a line of credit in 2 weeks? Well, you have to get them a lot of paperwork. That banker might be busy. I mean, we're in the midst of Paycheck Protection Program, all kinds of other government relief programs. Bankers are backed up right now. If you think you might need a line of credit 6 months or a year from now, that means you should start working on that process right now and getting that information to your banker and potentially having one approved, even if that means that you're not going to utilize it right now. It means you have the capacity to take advantage of it. That's what being prepared is for opportunities as they come about. Marketing plan. We touched on this already a little bit. Who are you going to go after? What avenues of marketing are going to be most cost efficient and effective for you to bring on clients? It looks like, did we get a chat? Your financial plan. This is, you're going into how are you going to spend throughout the year. If you're a solo small business owner, it's a little bit easier to financial plan for yourself. But this goes into proactively thinking what we just discussed about what's your capacity to bring on that next person? What's your capacity to take on a project? What's your capacity to bid on a certain project and at what levels? And making it so that your financial plan, so again, this is a living document that you can set a target initially. And if you're finding that that target that you set for a growth, profit margin or a labor cost is not working out, well, you need to have a plan that you can come back and edit and adjust very easily. And that's adaptable to how the market's going to change. I'm forecasting that with a large scale infrastructure plan, that there's going to be opportunities for construction companies to actually increase, on a premium that they're charging the government, because there's going to be a higher demand for services. And unless supply really picks up, we already know how busy home building infrastructure is. So contractors are working on that. How much supply is there going to be for infrastructure needs? Think creatively as you're coming up with these different plans that you're putting together. And if you've never done some of these plans, this is where working with those free resources, whether it's on the government side or working with your mentors, is going to be really important. Don't spend hours and hours and hours kicking yourself not understanding this, because it's important for you to understand. And don't let it become a roadblock for you moving forward. Don't want you stopping from going out and trying to win a contract because you haven't developed all these parts of your financial plan yet. It just doesn't make sense. It's a good problem to have if you start to have revenue coming in, and now you've got to do a better job of fixing your financial plan, as long as you're still above water on that contract, right? As long as you're still going to be profitable on that first or second contract, you can still adapt a better financial plan moving forward. Operations and management. This goes back to internal controls, the organizational structure of the company. Solo employee, solo owner, not that important. As you begin to hire more and more people, I look at the the structure is not only those the people working within your organization, but it's those independent contractors that are part of your capacity building. It's your network that's part of your capacity building. It's the professionals that are part of your organizational or operational capacity. It's other businesses that you could do a joint venture with that are part of your capacity as well. So in summary, the last traditional part of your business plan, yes, that's important for you to go through. I didn't spend go too in depth into some of those details. That's all going to be shared with you to go back and read and go through. I wanted you to stay focused on what is the why of your business. You are the most important part of your business. And then also why, what is the value of your business? Why are you passionate about it? It's important for you to feel good about it every day, waking up, being passionate about the business that you're running. It's important for the employees that are working for you. It's important for the customers that are wanting to work with you, the primes maybe that you're partnering with, or other companies that you're joint venturing with, but also the happy you are in your business as you develop this, that will also flow back into your individual life, right? You can't really separate business from personal when you are a small business owner. They really flow back and forth together. Don't let the traditional slides of a business plan get in the way of moving forward. Find the mentorship. It can save you hundreds, if not thousands of hours which ties into work smarter, not harder. Continue to network, professionals, free resources, other companies, other people, let your customers be part of your network. The most successful people I've seen in business have really valuable networks. If you're hanging around people that are not that motivated, it can bring down your vibe or your energy or your motivation. You want to be aspiring for greatness and being surrounding yourself with other business owners that are really pushing the envelope like you are. And always think about smart growth, right? It's not just growth. It's not just following the routine business plan. It's how are all of everything that's shared today, it shouldn't just be the way that it's, followed exactly as it's written. It's about what's going to work out best for you in your life, that we all are unique and we all have our own ways of doing things. So how can you take the most valuable portions of the information that's shared today or throughout any presentation or throughout any book, and how do you tailor it to your life? The information that's shared is only as valuable as what you can incorporate as to a habit in your life. Okay. Information that's shared is only as valuable as what you can actually incorporate into your life. And if that's in your business. And you don't need to do all of this at one time. Sometimes maybe if it's thinking about your why, you set a goal for yourself and say, it's going to be my goal to develop this why this month. Next month, I'm going to start tackling reaching out to more mentors or expanding my network. Or starting now, I'm going to make it a goal to introduce myself to one new person a week, have one new coffee a week. It's building these consistent habits. I think it was Aristotle who said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is a habit and not an act. So take this information, parse it up, make things into habits into your personal lives that carry over into your business, and make business aspects habits in your business life that you take from this information. And I'm excited to see each one of you grow. I'm excited to connect with each one of you. If you have any questions, if you want to do any one-on-ones, if you want to talk about legal or CPA aspects, or you just want to talk about business growth in general, I'm happy to connect with each one of you. I know I'm not done presenting today because we're going to talk about SPOT, but before we talk about SPOT, I want to make sure that there's a Q&A opportunity for any of those that have group questions that they want to ask.
Graham, this is Leslie.
Yes.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to share a story of one of my previous clients that wanted to start a business, had what they thought was a really great idea. And they opened the door to this business, literally and figuratively, without any background knowledge at all of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And the other main issues, they did not put in any capital contributions at the get-go. They bought it from another person.
Okay.
And they were under the impression that when they bought the business, that it would be fine. And then, a refrigerator broke down, or the plumbing was bad, or, the windows needed to be washed, and they did not have any startup capital to take care of things. The turnover rate of their employees was hideous because it took all this time to train them And then after a couple weeks, they just quit because they're all young, kids.
Sure.
And then COVID hit and the industry tanked. And, the ownership was enthusiastic and excited and, was aspiring to do great things. The problem was they would not listen to the mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And they would not, when you were talking about getting the line of credit ahead of time, if only they would have done that the day they started, but no, they didn't. And, they are struggling today. They did not do a business plan. They did not do cash flow projections. And, it was late last summer that they started this. And, the reality is, I anticipate that it'll probably be going belly up, but the biggest downfall at all was not listening to those who knew a thing or two about business, and who tried to guide them. And, they never looked at the financials. Yeah, it was really disturbing.
I think you bring up a really great point, Leslie, about listening to those, that's a theme that I'm getting from this, is sometimes the best advice we might receive from a mentor or a professional is no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I come across this with clients too, that, they might come to me and they say, oh, I'm so excited. I'm so enthusiastic about buying this business. And I like to challenge my clients and say, well, what does the data tell you? Have you looked at financial statements from that business? Is it going to be profitable if you buy it at, that amount of money? And what kind of repairs or contingencies do we need to worry about writing up in the contract? Because you mentioned a refrigerator breaking and plumbing issue. So does the data, support the decision? And also, if those mentors and other professionals in your life are telling you no, that may be more valuable than a yes, because now they're saving you years of your life, financial investment, and that years of your life also deals with opportunity costs, right? If you were already working at a job making $100,000 a year, and now you've foregone that salary to start up a business that's going to lose money just because you're excited about it, but you don't understand all the terms, and you're not protecting yourself in the purchase, or you didn't negotiate a good enough price, well, now you might find yourself underwater. And that's similar to those businesses that, in my experience, the number one reason for businesses failing that I've seen is they take on contracts, whether that's a construction contract, or in your example, Leslie, they take on a business purchase that they didn't understand all the terms of what they were buying, or think about all the contingencies and issues, that they put themselves in a bad situation to start with.
Well, thanks, Graham. It really was so disheartening, because, the individual was just, set on, their own personal success.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, employees, were, either left or were let go, so much turnover. And, and now things like, I don't know, the Department of Revenue and Employment Security and Labor and Industries. And so everything comes back to bite you if you are not well prepared moving forward. And in government contracting, you're exactly right on, they got this really, really great contract, And, I can do a run of like 10,000 widgets a month. And, it's 100,000 widgets that they need, and they need it in 6 months. You really have to figure out if you have the capacity to move forward.
Right. Yep. It looks like we had a question come in, and it was shared with everyone. And as we do questions, just remember that what you put in this chat is not confidential. If you want a confidential conversation with me, we're happy to set that up, whether it's in Spot or we can find another time for a one-on-one. But keep the questions coming. It's good because other people are going to learn from your questions as well. But we had from a participant, our company has been stable for a while now, at the right capacity, no need for much growth. Recently, we were acquired by another company with an interest in growing. I'm currently working on a marketing plan for that growth right now. Any advice on marketing after a period, approximately 10 years of stability?
Wow.
After 10 years, I mean, I can just think of all kinds of different change. I'd love to know the industry and give you some examples of maybe where I'd be marketing or looking at. But I just think of how even internet searching has changed in 10 years, that with my companies, my different projects, that's really the number one marketing tool for me. It's search engine optimization. It's how the majority of people in most industries are finding business today. It's going through Google, who's coming up first on the list. I'm also I'm a big believer that anyone can be an expert in any profession that they choose to these days. What does that mean? I think that, and this is coming from a guy that went to law school as a CPA, right? That I'm saying that the traditional methods of schooling are a little bit outdated, that it may even be more important to have your own YouTube channel with large amounts of following and more content that you've actually published online that's well reviewed and well accepted content, though, too, that as you continue to write content and become a professional, you really start to develop a brand and an expertise known in your industry. And what does that do for you? That increases your marketing hits online because you have more content out there. It also makes you a sought after networker or influencer within your industry, where people want to continue to network you because maybe you've got now 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, and those are people within the industry. And now all of a sudden you have a greater capacity of partners that you could do work with or connect with to get something done. And that's something I don't see enough people taking advantage of, is really becoming that professional with content online with your industry. And I'm guilty of that, though, too, that I'm busy enough as is, that, and some companies are like that, especially, what are we going to see with this infrastructure bill that's coming out? If you're too busy to keep up with work, your question is about, they want to go into growth mode. But if you already don't have the capacity to take on new contracts, what's the point of increasing your marketing if you can't already increase your capacity? Did I answer your question? All right.
So, Graham, along that same line, one of the best resources if you're looking to expand your marketing is your local public library. They have a business reference librarian, and with a library card, you can go in and extract all kinds of data as to who's in your industry, what is the footprint in my community, what's the average revenue, what's the average number of employees, based off of NAICS codes or SIC codes or commodity codes or, whatever you wanted to look at it for. But in the Spokane area, we have a really awesome business librarian. His name is Mark Pond. And his job is to meet with small businesses and, teach them how to do this and, get more people to have library cards. But it really is an awesome resource, just in the private sector. On the government side of things, on the previous request, if it's government, okay, so you want to find out, who's your real competition. And so on my class on Thursday, we're going to go down that road. But yeah, there's a lot of really great opportunities. And I see that we have a hand up. Andrew, go ahead and I'll look at the chat here. All right, so Andrew.
Hi, actually, Graham, in regards to Matt's question, Andrew Miller here, small business consultant from Spokane. And in a question that comes at me like that, the first thing that I would usually say, and I want to ping this off you because you seem very knowledgeable and expert in your direction here, but is that you typically want to try to identify your most expandable production line. And if you're making blue widgets or if you're making websites, whatever it is, when you have a factory that's maxed out in one corner and you're going to need a whole new building to make the blue widgets, but you actually have room to grow in the yellow widget department, trying to identify and source each of these places where you have room to grow. And then, of course, all of the marketing things that you were throwing in. But I found that a lot of my clients had a real problem trying to go gangbusters on things that required a massive financial investment, when literally all they had to do was call a temp agency and get a couple more warm bodies over in the corner. And I was just wondering, as far as your experience, does that seem to be consistent across scale? Because I work with really small businesses, 3 to 5 maybe at most. And in regards to what Matt was saying, it seems to me like it would be a real easy way to just localize or identify your weak spots in production and amplify that, and then market yourself out a little more towards things that you have room to grow in versus, I need a capital investment of $50,000 in order to make the blue ones. Well, let's go for more blue ones. But we can spend 5,000 and make yellows, so I just wanted to throw that off of you and see if that scales up, and chime it in just in case it would help Matt out.
Yeah, I definitely 100% scales into what we were talking about. But I think that there's 2 different parts of that marketing. There's the, to his marketing question, is like the capacity of your infrastructure growth, right? In growth mode, which when you're talking about just bringing on a temp agency or another building, right, to increase your capacity. And that goes back to, in the presentation, thinking about what is your overall network or infrastructure capacity of connections, whether it's independent contractors or companies that you could quickly take on. Even if you're not there and you don't have the need, it's about identifying all of those resources. For me, I'm not producing widgets, but as an attorney, what do I need is overhead. I'm not producing a product, but I need meeting space, right? To meet with clients. That makes me versatile. So what do? Instead of renting out a specific lease space in each city that I want to develop more clients in, I find partnerships with maybe another firm that I get to share overhead with them, right? That maybe I'm renting out their office or conference rooms. And all of a sudden, instead of dedicating $1,000 per city, and now I have the greater capacity to still take on more business and meet clients in those areas. And I think that your marketing growth idea on the widgets and just having another, the capacity of more infrastructure to scale up the growth is right on point. Did I match up what you were talking about there pretty well?
Well, then that's, yeah, exactly what I was thinking. And, it's been a few years since I've been in the game, so it's nice to ping off of somebody who's active. But I think that's Matt was targeted more towards the marketing, and I was looking more towards the structure. So sure. I'm just happy to take notes on everything you have to say. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you as well. Matt here. Thank you for the answer to that question. It was it's helpful. It's been kind of a strange corner to be in, kind of looking. We do professional services, so there's no There's no equipment there. There's no goods. Our capacity is kind of our people. So that part of it's been interesting looking forward to. So I really appreciate your comments, and it was helpful. So thank you.
Yeah. So Matt, when you're thinking about the capacity of people, right? Instead of you're not producing anything, but that goes to how many people have you identified that are maybe even contractors that you can bring on? There's, whether it's local organizations where you can identify those people, there's also something called Upwork, other platforms that allow you to quickly identify contractors that as you start to move up in growth, you've already got that capacity at a low enough cost for you to maintain the same amount of profitability. Because what's the point in growing if growth, you're not actually increasing the amount of profit that you're bringing in, or giving yourself a greater headache because you're bringing on a bunch more business, but you're not maintaining the same margin of profit, or one that is reasonable or targeted for you guys as a business. And you should always keep that in mind, that what's the marginal increase of revenue that if we jump up to this next level, can we still maintain the same amount of profit? Okay, to where it doesn't, give you greater headaches, or all of a sudden you have to take on some other greater capacity need. But if you're professional services, I don't see that headache of a significant fixed cost where you have to buy a new factory. It's really just about developing those independent relationships for capacity.
Thank you again for all your help.
Yeah,